Shameless is a very upfront TV series that realistically depicts the greatly poor and dysfunctional family of misfits, the Gallaghers. A neglectful father of 6 that has children that despise the thought of calling him dad, so they refer to him by name, Frank.
Fuck off, Frank.
He's the show stealer that a large part of the story is based around, but Shameless managed to get a lot out of the whole cast and give us some wild, relatable depictions of life, and other unrelatable ones. One of the driving forces in a lot of these stories is romance. One of the more interesting romance stories in the show is one that begins seemingly playful and unserious. However, as we continue to watch, we slowly see something dark and painful and realise relationships in the South Side don't often work that well. Everyone has their own set of problems, whether that be mentally, emotionally, or both. These ultimately lead to failure and great sadness for both parties involved. Before we begin, I have to make you aware that there will be major spoilers in this video around the show, mainly up to season 6, episode 9, but there will be some small things I talk about from later seasons, but nothing that will ruin those later parts of the show for you. If you haven't yet seen up to season 7, then I suggest watching it and coming back here for some character analysis and a review. Mandy Milkovich, aka Mandy Killed a Bitch, is a total hard-ass, no shit-taken teenage girl that shows you within just the first few episodes that you shouldn't fuck with her. Whether that's to do with her own crazy behaviours and threats, or to do with the fact that she has a pretty dysfunctional family that are pretty well known on the South Side, which is where Shameless is based. Otherwise known as the Hood, or just a poverty-stricken town in Chicago. Okay, so there's 2 different girls that play Mandy in the show. One didn't stay around for too long, the rest was mainly Emma Greenwell, this girl, so yeah. Her brother Mickey, being more well known of the family, is a guy that doesn't have second thoughts about robbing a shop or beating the shit out of people. Mandy often uses her brothers as a way of hurting people that cross her or do something she doesn't like. For example, in the first episode, herself and her brother appear in Aunt Ginger. She gets close with Ian, Lip's brother, flirting with him and even straddling him, trying to kiss him, but this ultimately doesn't work as Ian is gay. He doesn't tell her this until after he's forced to, as after he rejected her, Mandy decided to get her brothers to hunt him down and supposedly beat him up. Like I said, if something doesn't go away, she will do what she can to fuck you up. Be that her or her brothers. She'll clearly even lie about the situation. At least I'm guessing that's what she's done here, as it would be a bit weird for Mickey to beat up Ian for not shagging his sister. After this event comes to a close, Ian and Mandy actually become friends, and they stay friends throughout the whole show, and he even helps her in one of her final scenes. Lip is one of the main 6 characters of the Gallagher family, and the main focus of the love triangle between himself, Mandy, and Karen. But what does he want? Seemingly just sex. As the seasons go on, he doesn't make much of an interest in wanting to change. The multiple girlfriends he has throughout the show clearly show that he has a main interest in sex, even with people that aren't his girlfriend and perhaps just flings or attractions. Consistently see that even if his morals are in the correct place, he will always fall head over heels to the thought of sex, even if that does mean orgasming from a foot rub from his grandmother. Yes, that really happened.
Come for Grandma. Come on.
As much as he is one of the driving forces of the show and a lot of the main stories are based around him, that doesn't necessarily mean that he deserves Mandy. So maybe her leaving was actually a blessing for herself. Granted, she might not be living the best life she could live at the last point we see her, but she's away from someone that used her constantly and didn't put enough effort into the relationship as he perhaps should have. Although I'm really not defending Mandy here, as she literally ran over Karen because she was jealous of her and Lip. That's non-excusable. As much as they have perhaps shared moments of a good relationship and shown love for each other that you wish could have worked, it's probably for the best that they never meet again. Mandy and Lip's relationship slowly begins to blossom throughout the show, mainly starting in season 2, episode 4, where they are just randomly having sex. There wasn't really much build up to this. They'd only ever been in a few scenes together up to this point. Before this, however, Lip had been in an on and off relationship with Karen, Sheila's daughter from the same area that's been widely recalled throughout the show as a girl who sleeps around.
Keep laughing, and I will slit your throat while you sleep.
Lip has known this and doesn't care about it for the most part until the final episode of season 1. Karen goes insane in the last few episodes of the season. This is because of the way her father Eddie speaks to her and thinks of her after realizing how much of a slut she really is. He wanted her to come to a purity ball with him. He wanted her to do this to hopefully change her behaviour and help him actually look his daughter in the eye. She only agreed to go because he promised he'd give her his car if she did. It was only until Karen was forced to confess how bad she really was that things went south. He realised how awful she had really been in her past, and his promise of giving her the car had gone out the window. Karen felt embarrassed by the whole situation and smashes up his weird clown shrine in the office in his basement. Sheila, being the protective mother she is, kicks Eddie out and tells him to never return. In a raging breakdown, she has sex with Frank, the father of a guy that she has had endless encounters with, one of the few people left in the world that actually likes her, and she goes and does this. It really shows Karen's heartless character and how she doesn't care for anyone, probably even herself.
Frank?
Nah, Lip, I'm pretty sure that's Karen. After this event actually happens, she apologizes to him. She has a brief conversation beforehand with him, which I find a little odd. I believe that most people in Karen's situation would give an apology straight away before anything else, addressing the elephant in the room. This begins to really show you how disconnected and ghastly Karen really is from everyone else. She's a bitch to nearly everyone for no reason. She definitely has tendencies for being a sociopath, as it doesn't really seem like she does anything at all for other people except herself. She doesn't really care that much what happens in her life or who comes and who goes. Even someone like Lip, who has somehow cared for her countlessly and looked out for her, she still just moves on with her life and sees Lip as someone who's just there. This attitude definitely affects Lip negatively and builds the idea in his head that no matter what he does, he's not going to get the gratification that he perhaps deserves. That's what leads us onto his more destructive era, that is Season 2. Season 2 has a new summer come around and shows Lip beginning to be more distant with Karen, as she seems to have moved on to a guy she met in her sex addicts club, Jody. Being as dense as a doorknob, Jody is completely unaware of Lip and Karen still secretly having sex behind his back. Jody gets lost in his own story with Karen's mum in this season, which is just so weird in itself. Nothing is normal in this show, don't get me wrong, but when Karen's new boyfriend and supposed father of the child is having an intimate kinky relationship with Karen's mother, it makes you second guess some of the more serious tones in the show. The sex Karen and Lip had been having is seemingly drawing to a close, as Karen says, "We're not having sex anymore, I mean it." Lip later in the episode begins a fling with Mandy all of a sudden, which would kick off their troubling relationship. Although throughout the rest of Season 2, she doesn't make that many appearances, as the rest of the season is focused around Karen's baby and Lip's involvement in her story. Adding on to Karen being a real loony is how one of the subplots was Frank getting caught by police about the whole Karen revenge porn sex scene. It's revealed that Karen actually covered Frank's ass big time and said that she had R-worded him, so he got let off all his charges. But it wasn't until just after Frank finds this out that we realise Karen only did this because she thought Frank actually killed Eddie, Karen's father. Frank of course doesn't care that Karen has the wrong idea, he's just glad he doesn't have to go to jail. Karen in this scene showed she hasn't even batted an eyelid to the fact she thought Frank killed her father. She was even grateful for him doing so. Karen throughout this season really shows how she is a whole person to the core, as in this scene it's shown that she is smoking and is even said to have been drinking by Lip. He tries to tell Karen to stop drinking in this episode, and he really shows he still cares a lot about Karen and her baby, even though she has somewhat made it clear in previous episodes that it's not any of his business.
It's hormones. You sure about that?
As soon as Karen's hormones calm down, I'll be back in the house.
No, you won't, weirdo!
Lip states how it's important for a kid to have their father around, which is when Karen states that she's gotten married to Jody. This clearly hurts Lip, but knowing him, he tries to play this off as not a big deal. Karen is one of the only things Lip cares about in his life, and it's being slowly taken away from him. He's hanging on to the hope that the baby is his, so he can have somewhat involvement in her life again and try to rekindle the relationship that he desperately craves. She continually bats away Lip's efforts to try and help her with the arrival of her baby, saying he'll come with her on the rest of the adoption meetings to help find a good home. Oh yeah, that's also happening by the way. Karen wants to get rid of the baby right away to get some money for it. Yeah, really. Mandy has a terribly dark story in which her father drunkenly mistakes her for her mother and has sex with her. It even went to the point where Mandy was actually pregnant with her father's baby. The writers of the show do a really amazing job making Terry Milkovich a really hateable asshole. He impregnates his daughter, makes his gay son have sex with a female prostitute in front of his own boyfriend, and has countless other terrible smaller plot points throughout the show. He is the embodiment of how dark this show can really get at its worst points. Karen only cares about how much money she's getting for the baby. Lip, on the other hand, is desperately trying to guide her towards making sure the baby goes to the correct family. Karen gives in because Lip was unhappy about her decision. Karen once again shows how emotionally manipulative she is to Lip right in front of his face, hopefully showing to him that he should really stay away from someone like her. The baby ends up not being Lip's, and he's obviously devastated. Karen then runs away from home as Sheila keeps the baby rather than getting rid of him. This is where the relationship really begins for Lip and Mandy, as Lip wants to fill the void in his heart that Karen left. Mandy begins to see how smart Lip is and wants him to make the most out of his life and go to college. She even goes to the school's guidance counsellor to talk with him about the best move forward for Lip and what he should currently be doing to progress his chances of getting into a good college. Lip is more against this idea of going to college, as he doesn't want to do what everyone wants and tells him to do, even if it's the best option for him. This shows that deep down, Lip can still be quite immature, as most people with his brains would just go to college and get a good degree so they can make a lot of money. Lip, like the horny teenage boy he is, lets a paedophile take control of him in an uncomfortable scene. Cheating in this show is just seen as something that gets brushed off a lot, and it's sad to see that everyone just gets away with it. I'm pretty sure all of the Gallaghers except Carl and Liam haven't cheated at one point, and pretty much all of the Gallaghers have been cheated on themselves. How crazy is that? Is it really that common, or is the show over dramatizing it? I'll go with the second option, as a lot of crazy unrealistic stuff happens in this show, although cheating is quite common in this day and age and it's happening more and more. So yeah, depressing. Mandy finds out about the paedophile and runs out of the house, and then the next episode, without a word being spoken between the two, they're just having sex again. How much did we miss? Fiona had been getting annoyed with Mandy spending a lot of time at their house at the beginning of the season, but now even Lip is trying his best not to spend all his time with her. She now seems to be in almost every scene Lip is in, and this makes him finally break and lose his temper. Ian, being her best friend, sticks up for her and makes Lip realise what a good catch he's got with her in relation to what he had with Karen. This perhaps somewhat got through to Lip, and he unbottled some anger and hatred he has deep down for Karen and lets it rip onto a voicemail that he left.
You selfish, ignorant, heinous piece of dog shit.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
He then right after goes to Mandy's house to apologise for being a dick to her. Growth. We love to see it in more ways than one. Karen finally makes her return, and this begins to cause problems, as we will see soon. She lets Lip know that she's back, but he's quite dismissive of her return. Mandy confronts Lip about their meeting, and he makes it clear to Mandy that he never asked for her to be here, touching on the fact that her clinginess is driving him away. Lip sees Karen and at first makes it seem like he's going to tell her to stay away from him and Mandy, but then...
Take your clothes off.
Yeah, they have sex. Lip just can't control himself when it comes to Karen, even if it means ruining a relationship of someone that truly loves him. Mandy seems to get over things very quickly. She reveals to Lip that she applied to MIT for him, a very prestigious college, amongst plenty of others for backup. This annoys Lip, as once again it's Mandy invading his life and making decisions for him, even if they may be helpful. Lip getting frustrated with Mandy telling Karen to back off is pretty unreasonable. Karen is a well-known skank, and Mandy doesn't trust her because of the past her and Lip have had. If Lip wants to show to Mandy that he actually wants to continue their relationship properly, then that would include not talking to Karen at all. Lip is giving a lot of red flags to Mandy that a lot of people wouldn't stand for, but because of the incredibly low self-esteem Mandy has for herself, she lets him get away with it more than she should, constantly making Mandy feel worse and worse about herself as the show continues. Lip is doing it yet again with Karen. She asks why he doesn't just dump her, which he ignores. I hate how Lip can quite often have such a smug smile on his face after cheating on his girlfriend multiple times. He says thank you to her by having sex with her. Mandy wanted Lip to go to MIT regardless of whether or not she brought her with him because she really cares about his future in education. Lip decides to actually end it with Karen. It only took him having sex with her twice to realise this. Karen makes quite a strange call to Lip, somehow knowing that Mandy would pick up at that time. Karen's making it out to Mandy that she's going to be going to college with him instead of her. Karen gets a text back from Lip saying he wants to meet, only for Karen to get hit by a car in the middle of the road, and we'd soon find out that this was, to no one's surprise, Mandy.
Where'd you head?
Girl at school?
Don't forget to check for hair behind the grill.
We always knew that Mandy wasn't a complete person and had her flaws, but murder is a different story. As soon as someone tries to kill someone, especially over as little as these circumstances, then it really shows how unbalanced their mental health is. Karen is in a coma, and this is really hard for Lip, even after how her last interaction went.
Chicken soup.
This could have even made it worse if she passed away, as their last interaction was a very negative one. Lip visits Karen in the hospital, and this is where it's revealed to him that Karen was texted by what she thought was Lip, but was actually Mandy. Karen wakes up from her coma, and Lip seems to understand it's Mandy, but doesn't really show it to her yet. He acts slightly cold towards her though, because it would be hard to completely ignore it and pretend you didn't know. The audience is aware that something is going to go down between them very soon. Karen is clearly heavily affected by the coma she was in and will struggle to make new memories. Mandy is upset that her and Lip haven't had sex in a week, even though Lip has clearly been having a tough time at the moment. To most people this would be clear, but not to Mandy, as she decides to sexually assault him and force sex on him when he doesn't want it. If you didn't already think that's messed up, just listen to what she says here.
You belong here. With me. Not with that fucking vegetable.
Lip tells Karen that Mandy hit her with a car, but because of her brain trauma, she has no idea what he even just said to her. Lip has had enough and confronts Mandy at her brother's wedding. This seems like it should be the end for them. For most people it would be, but we'll see what happens here. Lip gets his diploma and graduates school. Meanwhile, Karen leaves with Jodie and her son to live in Arizona to try some of Jodie's family's natural spiritual healing bullshit. I don't care. Right at the end of the season, Lip goes to see Mandy to let her know he got into MIT. They have some sort of emotional chat where he thanks her for applying for colleges to him, where he doesn't even say whether or not he's going to go. This is supposed to be some kind of,
oh, how cute, she did it for him, and things maybe somehow worked out.
like, nah man, she literally ran over and tried to kill a girl that he's been friends with for such a long time. This is fucked up. And I would never speak to Mandy again, no matter how bad you think Lip has been to Mandy. She just did what she did because she's crazy. I'm staying far, far away from her if I was Lip. Season 4 shows Mandy in a relationship with Kenyatta. Yeah, the guy she said she swallowed the load of at the wedding.
Just swallowed his load in the bathroom. Can you taste it?
Lip is in college and has multiple sexual relationships, including an actual relationship with a girl named Amanda that I won't go into because frankly it isn't really related to the main love triangle of the video. Plus she's never seen Mandy or Karen and doesn't interact or interfere with that side of the story, so it doesn't really matter. After a little time at college, Lip comes home and sees Mandy as he missed her. They of course end up having sex because that's all this fucking show is. He even suggests not getting the pill and rolling a dice at possibly having a child. Mandy thinks it's a terrible idea but finds out Lip is quitting college because of his behaviors there, making Mandy feel awful as Lip wanted to just come home and have sex with her, which maybe could have been fine, but he decides to make her feel bad for it and getting annoyed about him giving up college after she worked so hard for him to get in. After all, he was actually grateful for what she did for him. Not only that, but impregnating her and not giving her money to get rid of the baby. It was a complete dick move by Lip, but we're used to seeing him do that more and more these days. Nothing else happens between them until the end of the season, and you can see why. Kenyatta confronts Lip about how he had sex with Mandy nearer the beginning of the season.
I don't know him, officers, okay? You know, he asked if I wanted to buy any crack, and when I said no,
we find out he's abusive towards her in episode 9 when Mickey sees her in the bathroom in this state. Lip sees her injuries and asks what happens, to which Mandy clearly doesn't want to tell him. Lip doesn't take anything further on this, one because he's no longer with Mandy, and two, Kenyatta is fucking huge and fuck him up. I guess Mandy wants to make a major change in her life here because only 2 episodes later, Lip is being served at a table with his current girlfriend by Mandy. Whilst Mandy notices him initially, she decides to treat him like a total stranger and wants nothing to do with him anymore. I don't blame her, and it's a bit odd of Lip to tell her she looks great here, knowing that saying that is only going to mess with her head and her emotions. What was he expecting from her after saying this? That she'd fall head over heels for him again and maybe want to get back into his life? Lip is currently in a happy relationship with Amanda, someone that genuinely hasn't caused a single issue in the relationship. Sure, she's a little clingy, but she's provided him with a lot of money to help him out and helped plan out his college life for him. Sure, this can be seen as a little excessive, but it's a genuinely caring thing to do for someone that you love. If you had the time and money, you do something like this with someone you cared about. Plus, she hasn't tried to murder your ex, so that's always going to rank you higher than other partners. So with Lip being in this relationship in its current circumstances, why would you even try to interact with your ex, especially in this way? It shows Lip really doesn't actually know what he wants. He always tries to keep previous relationships close to him just in case he has to fall back on them. He tried to have a relationship with Karen constantly and she never wanted it, so he was over the moon when he had Mandy as a backup. Now he doesn't like the fact that Mandy is trying to move on with her life. He has to always be in it and have the mindset that just in case things don't work out with Amanda, he has Mandy as a backup. Lip's pretty disgusting throughout the show, I can't lie, but he gets the main character luxury of ultimately getting liked again and having his previous screw-ups forgotten. Lip looks at Mandy and realizes it's over. Except it's not. Mandy asks Lip if he has a girlfriend and lets him know he can have sex with her if he likes. Completely negated how she acted towards him at the end of last season. Nothing seems to really be concrete in this show. You can never take anyone's word because you don't know if it's going to hold up even to the next episode. That's one of the minimal flaws from this show. Kenyatta says to Mandy that they're moving to Indiana. Mandy makes it obvious she doesn't want to go. Yet as soon as Ian or Mickey have anything to say about it, she says,
There's nothing for me here. I gotta pack.
Perhaps the biggest turning point in Mandy's story is this scene where Lip looks deep into her eyes and says what he truly deeply means to her. And both actors do an amazing job here of really portraying their emotions and how it affects them. Lip again proves he's a scumbag by once again cheating on another girlfriend and telling Mandy how gorgeous, sweet and funny she is while looking deep into her eyes. They begin to have sex and Mandy says, I love you. Oh dear. Lip does not say it back. And this clearly has absolutely crushed Mandy, which forces her to go ahead with the move to Indiana to Lip's surprise somehow. I was actually in 2 minds watching this, whether it was going to be Lip saying I love you back or not saying I love you, because they could have done good stories for both ways, whether she stayed and actually got into a relationship properly with Lip and they decided to stay together, or the way they went now with Mandy moving off to Indiana because Lip doesn't love her. Although Lip really believes in Mandy and how smart he thinks she is, she doesn't necessarily make use of that, as she is seen for the last time in season 6 working as an escort. She gets into a bit of a predicament with one of the men that was paying her, and he ended up having a stroke. She called Ian to help her out, and ultimately everything turns out to be fine. She has one final heart-to-heart with Ian and she leaves, stopping momentarily to share one last gaze of Lip as he passes her on her way out. All the emotions and feelings they shared seem to have gone by in a flash in just a few seconds. This has actually been quite a while, because it was about a season and a half where she was last seen. Lip was seemingly more affected by this than Mandy. She leaves and never returns to the show except being mentioned a few times. I mentioned just now how Lip had high expectations for Mandy, as she did for him. Shameless really wants you to understand that Southside is not somewhere that easily lets you make a name for yourself. Sure, you can make some exceptions that some of the family have succeeded somewhat in their own ways, but can you really make a justification that they haven't had to struggle? Or even with all being said and done, they succeeded at all? Both Lip and Mandy failed in this sense. Sure, Mandy has seemed to have made some money from her job as an escort, as Lip noted she was driving a Jeep outside. But at what cost? Getting paid to sleep with lowlives that feel the need to pay for sex because they have no self-esteem? It depends on how you look at making a good life for yourself, I guess. Is all the shame and guilt she surely carries around with herself worth the money she makes and the hassle that clearly comes with the job? Look at Lip 2, for example. He had such high expectations going to MIT and other prestigious colleges, and he lets himself get kicked out and run riot. And in the later seasons, he has his own problems that I won't go into, just in case you're not there yet. But Lip definitely didn't live up to the expectations that everyone had had for him in the earlier seasons. Throughout the series, it was clear that Mandy really loved Lip. Even when they weren't together, she asked about his college plans and even acted motherly towards him at times. Lip, while still in a relationship with Amanda, complimented her on her intelligence and beauty when he came back to visit her during a break from college. This meant so much to Mandy that she confessed her love for him, but unfortunately Lip did not respond at all, leaving her deeply saddened, so much so that she actually left the next day with her current partner despite having plans with Lip that morning. Mandy deeply cares for Lip and demonstrates her love in various ways throughout the series. From the beginning, she supports Lip academically, helping him with his studies and pushing him to pursue his potential. Mandy's rough upbringing plays a significant role in the development of a relationship with Lip. Living in a toxic environment, Mandy craves love and stability, which she finds in Lip. However, her difficult childhood inhibits her ability to form healthy attachments. Mandy's experience of abuse and neglect skews her understanding of love and leads to an unhealthy dynamic with Lip. Mandy's upbringing shapes her possessiveness and need for control within the relationship. She constantly fears abandonment, leading her to display jealousy and controlling behavior. While her actions are misguided, they stem from a genuine place of love and fear of losing the only person who has shown her consistent affection. Mandy's insecurities and emotional baggage strain her relationship with Lip, ultimately contributing to its downfall. Mandy's departure serves as a narrative device to explore Lip's character development. By removing Mandy from the equation, the show allows Lip to confront his own demons and learn to love himself. Mandy's exit provides a catalyst for Lip's personal growth, pushing him to face his own destructive patterns and strive for a healthier future. Mandy leaving the show actually turned out to be a good thing for her and Lip, as it started to signify the personal growth and the need for both characters to confront their individual issues. While Mandy's journey may have come to an end, her impact on the narrative and her significance in Lip's life will forever be remembered. This also links to the main construct of the show, the fact that no matter how hard you try and how much you think you're succeeding, you will not.
Okay, good lord, enough of this shit. That's my fortune!
In this area, there doesn't seem to be any sort of succession. People just constantly strive for a better life, and they do make it some ways, but generally there's always going to be one step forward, two steps back. It's quite realistic in the terms that if you're brought up in a poor area or you have certain disadvantages to your name, you're going to always have to work harder than others. But then when you do get to that point, it's always going to feel better than just being bottle fed up to that point. In Season 2, Episode 11, Lip records a video of himself with the child of Karen, desperately hoping it's his own. Knowing he might never even see the kid, he just wants his kid to remember his own father. Lip sees it as a very important thing to do for his son-to-be, as he's had such a tough childhood growing up in his family, and of course having Frank as a neglectful father. Lip shows how much heart he really has for people deep down. This isn't just a one-off for Lip too. Out of all the characters in the show, he seems to be one of the few that, yes, he may have flaws, but he also always looks out for those he loves and tries to go above and beyond for them, where most people would have quit. This is particularly relevant where Lip takes care of people like Ewans and Brad, for example. Lip is a troubled man with a troubled past and future ahead of him. Growing up in his neighborhood is always going to be a task. He's lucky to be smart and use that as a special power to maybe make it out okay. His brain helps him out in a lot of situations, but it also gets him jealous of others that are currently succeeding more than him with what he believes are lesser qualities. Mandy was a large part of his life for a few seasons. She became a stronger part while Karen left over Sheila's decision to take care of her baby rather than get rid of him. I believe Mandy was Lip's true love, but he just struggled to see this because of the upbringing that he's had and the relationships that he had with Karen, for example, as well. Mandy went above and beyond, sometimes in a scary way for Lip, but she always had his best interest and he never noticed that. And then when he finally started to realize this, it was too late. The rest of the seasons shows Lip trying to overcome this struggle. Slowly and surely he does, but he's always going to have flings with people and they're always going to remind him of Mandy. The show does a great job at building Lip's character, and you have to credit Jeremy Allen White for his highly believable acting, even if a lot of it is just him looking and staring up at the ceiling. You see him having to take over as the man of the house in a lot of the situations at such a young age when Fiona messes up, dealing with realizing his teenage heartthrob is a psycho that never really cared about him at all. All in all, these issues give him his own set of issues that he slowly conquers down the line, and you really see every little detail in his struggle as he always takes it on the chin, because in this family you have no choice. It's always go, go, go. You have no time to mope around and feel sorry for yourself. Lip is a very strong character and has carried a lot of the show on his shoulders by being at the forefront of nearly everything that goes wrong or could go wrong in the Gallagher household. Perhaps sometimes second to Fiona, who deserves her own video, which I may make one day. This actually causes a few issues between the two, as neither of them want to really take the slack for all the mess that gets created over the 11 seasons. Throughout recording this video, I really got some emotions come back to me on this show and why I loved it in the first place and connected with it more than other shows. Don't get me wrong, it definitely has some silly plot points and the stories that just wouldn't work in real life. But there's some stuff that really hits you hard, especially if you've lived through poverty-stricken moments in your life or grown up in a big household that constantly has to share. You hate each other because of it, but deep down you have an unmatched love that can't be broken. Like Fiona constantly letting Frank and Monica back into her life, trying to help the family by letting Monica in so she can relax a little in looking after everyone in the family, passing the job somewhat to the real parents and letting her focus on herself, to then it all blowing back in her face because her parents are fuck-ups deep down and weren't meant to raise kids. Lip then gives her a hard time for this, being the younger sibling that doesn't have to take as much weight as Fiona has done her whole life. He brings Fiona back down to reality, which is why these two work together so well throughout the show. They both realise in the long run, there's no real escape from the south side, only ways to heal the pain. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm GDB. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed or share the same thoughts as me. Thank you.